Hey everyone, I'm Sebastian from Cinemageddon Reviews. Let's talk about the Snyder Cut. Wow. I just had a chance to see the movie yesterday. I had a chance to see it because, well, to put it bluntly, I kinda got invited by Warner Brothers after I ended up winning that damn sweepstakes that they were holding. The Honor Among Us, I believe that's what you call it, where you can put a video of yourself talking about a person that you consider to be a hero in your eyes, who can also relate to one of the heroes that will be featured in the movie. And if you win, then you can either get a private early screening to the movie, tickets to go see it live somewhere, I believe is also what they were doing, merchandise. I did not expect mine to end up winning, to be perfectly honest, because not because I didn't think that my video was bad or anything like that, but because the video that I kept posting never ended up actually being made available on the site when I tried to upload it. So I thought I had no chance. And now, apparently that's not the case. I had a chance to watch the movie yesterday, all 4 grueling hours of it, and okay. Before I say anything, I want to make this perfectly clear, because I want everyone watching this to know that this is going to be 100% transparent. And I really don't know how to start this off by saying I hate the DCEU. I hate what Zack Snyder did with Man of Steel. I didn't much care for Batman v Superman, although my thoughts on that movie were very, very different. I don't know how to feel about that movie now, and I seriously don't know if it's ever going to get any better in my eyes. And while it definitely has gotten better, not with Suicide Squad, with Wonder Woman, I still don't really have a good connection with this franchise. Mostly because it's focusing less on trying to make good movies, although it has definitely put up a good movie here and there, but more so because it's so focused on trying to do damage control and not actually trying to, make good movies. And as a result, I don't know what exactly is going to be the direction going forward with the DC Extended Universe. They had a really bad start, in my honest opinion, and I just don't see it getting any better. Wonder Woman 1984 was a film that was unfortunately divided amongst fans and critics. I personally liked it a lot more than I probably should have, but that's entirely, completely inconsequential to this entire video that I'm doing right now. All I'm saying is, I have a lot of opinions when it comes to the DC Extended Universe. I made a bold claim saying that Wonder Woman 84 was my favorite DC movie of all time. And before I say the things that I'm going to say about the Snyder Cut, I just want you all watching this to understand this. I have nothing but love and praise for Zack Snyder. I think the man is a wonderful visionary director. He's made some of my favorite movies of all time, including Dawn of the Dead and Watchmen. And even though my thoughts on it are kind of iffy, because if you read the comic, then you know that by definition, having the movie actually exist kind of defeats the purpose of the comic in hindsight. I cannot hate this movie because, well, Snyder kind of introduced me to the comic as a result of this. I bought the comic when it got re-released in celebration for the movie, and it became one of my favorite comics of all time as a result of it. And when I watched the movie, I was very shocked to find out how almost universally accurate it was to the comic. Minus the stupid squid at the end. Look, I'm sorry fanboys, but the giant squid sucked. Okay? If we can all come to terms, Snyder did it better here. Arguably, he probably shouldn't have done it in the first place, but if you're going to do it, at least make the story better. And he didn't include the stupid squid at the end, so in my opinion, that's a good thing. By the way, the Watchmen TV show is fantastic, and nobody can tell me otherwise. So, I have nothing but love for the man. I was hugely disappointed with Legend of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole, not because it was a dumb kids movie, but because it was a brilliant book series that I love that could have been dark, violent, and edgy just the way that he likes it. And yet it was so heavily sanitized to the point that it felt, well, kind of bland in my opinion. I feel like if any movie deserves a Snyder cut, this is the one that deserves its own Snyder cut. Like, have it be 3 hours long, have it be every single book lasting about 45 minutes each, because the damn thing was a compilation of 3 of the first books in the Gahul series, and I feel like it paced itself too fast to the point where you can barely take time to understand what the hell is happening there. Focus more on the characters, expand on the backstories of the villains. Like, I'm just saying, where is my Snyder cut of Legend of the Guardians? I want that. I want to see that in the future, since he's already remastering Batman v Superman for God knows what reason. Now, I digress. I am a fan of Snyder. I also enjoyed Sucker Punch, despite all the naysaying that I've been saying in secrecy to all my friends, I meant to say, because the movie can be kind of stupid if you don't really look at it in the proper mindset. I actually think that it is a fantastic and kind of thrilling experience, and one that I've always envied in terms of direction. I hate this movie for how brilliantly directed it is, and I hate it because it's all that creativity, all that thought that I've thought about doing for my own stories coming to life, and I'm not the one that's doing it, so there's some bias there, as you can imagine. But again, I digress. Man of Steel was the worst superhero movie I have ever seen, and honestly, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Not in terms of writing, directing, or anything like that. There's gonna be worse movies there. Suicide Squad is one of them, and I don't even have to debate on that. I think anybody here can understand why I think that Suicide Squad is probably one of the worst superhero movies ever. With or without an Ayer cut, let's be honest, guys, it's not gonna happen. I said before that the Snyder cut doesn't exist, but this definitely does not exist, and it will not happen. Unless somehow I'm proven wrong and Ayer does get his quote-unquote Ayer cut, in which case, is it really going to make it any better? Harley Quinn and the Joker are still a couple here, and it's supposed to be all relationship goals and whatnot. This is not the Joker and Harley Quinn, I'm sorry. But, moreover, Man of Steel hurt. It hurt to see. It may not be the worst in terms of writing, directing, or visuals, but it fucking hurt to see. It hurt because that was not Superman that I was watching. I don't know who the hell this person was with the cape and the lack of trunks, but that was not Superman. And watching him recklessly flying into buildings, causing more damage than he actually did saving people, was one of the worst things that I've ever seen, and it got even worse at the end when he killed Zod. So, watching this movie kind of traumatized me slightly, not just because of how horrible it was seeing Superman, a symbol of hope and optimism, fucking kill somebody like that, but also watching everyone reacting positively to that, saying that this is a good thing, this is a good change for the character. I'm not going to get into any debates in this video because that's not the subject that we're talking about here, and we will talk about the Snyder Cut, I promise. But I just want to, I want to come clean with all of you watching this right now, because if anything, this movie definitely does some stuff that helps me kind of come to terms, so to speak. Batman v Superman was a film that I loved when I first saw it in theaters. I laughed a couple of times, not really a lot, but I giggled a couple of times here, mostly because of what Alfred was saying here and there. That was kind of adorable, because, hey, it's Alfred and he's bantering with Bruce Wayne. It's like in the TV show. It's like in Justice League when Alfred would be a bit of a savage here and there. But I just look, I'm gonna be honest. I don't understand why anybody can look at Batman v Superman and think that it is fantastic. I've made my own assumptions, my own theories. I even analyzed the film because I'm a critic and I love to analyze everything, no matter how much or how nonsensical it is at the end. I came to a justification for the Martha thing. I still make fun of it because, again, Martha. But the film, to me, Batman v Superman is a good movie in theory, but broken down and led down limping aimlessly because of its own ambition. It is Literally a camel, and the straw that broke its back was all of the creativity and ambition that just could not translate well into film. And you can disagree with me all you want, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me on this. If you like Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, perfectly fine. I'm not here to judge, and I'm not here to criticize. There's enough bullshit on the internet, and there's a lot of hate. There's plenty of hate enough as there is, and I think the less that there is of that, the better. So, why am I giving you all a little deep dive into my own history with the DCEU? Because I've been naysaying the idea of a Snyder Cut for years, and I still kind of do to this day, even after I actually just watched it. Because in my eyes, the Snyder Cut that everyone is talking about is not the movie that I saw yesterday. Everyone looks at the Snyder Cut and thinks that there's this already completed version of Justice League without Whedon doing all of this stupid humor and red-tinted skies and Barry landing on Diana's tits for some reason. What the fuck was up with that, Joss Whedon? But the movie was never a thing. There never was a Snyder Cut. What there did exist was unused and unfinished footage that Snyder had on a flash drive that he took with him after he left production following the death of his daughter. I don't have a single understanding as to how people could come up with the idea that a fully realized version of his cut of the movie existed somewhere, but I should have probably understood that there was definitely the possibility that he had all of that unfinished footage stored somewhere. He just was unable to do anything with it because, of course, who the hell was going to let him finish that movie after he already quit production, and Warner Brothers clearly wanted to go in a different direction. And, you know, internal politics aside, Warner Brothers shut the bed horribly on a lot of things. I think it is completely disrespectful, not just to the filmmaker, but also to the cast and crew, bringing in another person to course correct the film when it's still in development. Mostly because I think that they were too afraid of having another Batman v Superman situation happening. But even if we ignore the fact that the movie was not that good, and maybe having a little bit of a course correction there wouldn't have been a bad idea, Snyder already wanted to course correct and make the movie lighter and more, well, hopeful and optimistic. At least, this is all based on research that I've done, so if any of you have anything different to say about that with actual evidence and facts, then be sure to write it in the comment section and I will be happy to read it. Because like a lot of people, I've been misled by nonsensical bullshit, mostly because, like a lot of people, I also believe that Joss Whedon was not only brought in personally by Zack Snyder, he also approved of him taking control after he left production. This was not true. I hate the fact that I let myself be tricked into that, mostly because when I said all the stuff that I did, it was all because I read it on publications that confirmed it. Then I read then I read the article by Variety, and I know that that's not the case. So, finding out all of this and seeing what is happening right now, how Snyder pretty much was put in a no-win scenario, not just with the fact that they were pretty much trying to sabotage his movie, taking it away from him and having someone else correct it in their eyes, or at the very least make it more profitable and better critic proof, I guess you want to call it there. And look, I'm not going to talk about criticism here and there, because whether or not you agree with any professional critic on these movies in terms of their quality, you can like the movie all you want, even disagree on its quality if you think that it's good and others say it's bad. Let's just not get into that, okay? Let's not argue about critics versus fans. I'm very sick and tired of hearing about that. And hearing all of the stuff that happened behind the scenes with Zack Snyder and with the studio, it really, I don't know, you ever get that feeling where you kind of cater to an audience of assholes by not thinking outside the box on certain things? I don't know, I guess you can call it I had this dumb little narrative in my head, like, Man of Steel was basically Zack Snyder destroying Superman. Well, not destroying Superman, but destroying the concept of Superman. And Batman v Superman is me confronting Snyder after everything that's happened. And again, with what happened with the end of Batman v Superman, ironically enough, following the events of what would happen with the production of Justice League, he got metaphorically killed off in terms of his vision, and me, or in this case us, the fans, pretty much united to try to bring him back in order to get his vision the way that he wanted it to see, so that we can all see it. I was not one of those people, and I even got criticized, even picked on by the internet multiple times, especially by publication sources. And I'm not going to name names because I don't want to get involved in any more legal trouble than I did last year with some certain individuals whose names will not be shown here for obvious reasons. But I get it. I get it. Whether or not I see the potential of this movie being good, I understand that there are people out there who respect his vision a lot more than most people do, to the point where they want to see his vision come to life. And I think it's really, really dim-sighted of me to only focus on the toxicity that came from it. I am aware that there's a lot of toxicity, and I got so mad at seeing all of this happening that I didn't even bother trying to point out at the positives on it. To me, that was pretty judgmental in my eyes, and I should have known a little better. Especially finding out that a lot of these fans, whether or not they were, responsible for causing any of that toxicity, a lot of these fans also ended up doing fundraisers to raise money for awareness in mental health and suicide prevention, which, considering that Zack Snyder's daughter Autumn committed suicide in 2017, that is a ridiculously amazing achievement, and I have nothing but respect for all of those people. So I don't really have much to say about that. I feel for the man, and I respect the man enough to actually want his vision to come to life, even if I probably won't like it. So now that his vision came to life and I came to terms with the whole franchise and the state that it is in, how exactly is the movie? Well, okay, so none of this is going to be a review. This is only going to be a first impression. I will be doing an actual review on this in the future, but it's going to come much later. I can't promise it'll come in March. I have something special in line regarding the Snyder Cut and my thoughts on Zack Snyder as a whole, but here's my honest first impressions on the movie. I think Zack Snyder's Justice League might be my favorite DC movie of all time. Wow. For some reason I thought I was going to feel a lot more pain coming from that, but okay then. So Zack Snyder's Justice League is probably one of my favorite movies of all time, as well as definitely, if not probably, my favorite DC movie of all time. Right up there with Wonder Woman 1984. I'm not trying to say that Wonder Woman 84 is a marvel of innovation or anything like that. I already had my review on that. Mind the humor there. So if you see any comments there differing from what I'm saying here, there was a lot of growth and change that I had to do over the years. So just remember that as a product of its time, if you want to call it that. If you saw the video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Zack Snyder's Justice League is a wonderful breath of fresh air compared to the Whedon version that I saw back in 2017 in a Maria-stricken Puerto Rico. I don't have words to describe how completely different this movie was from the disastrous train wreck that I had in my eyes. In my mind, I was expecting this to be colossally, catastrophically awful, and I guess I just wasn't expecting myself to be having fun, feeling like this is bringing back joy and optimism in a world that has lost a lot of that already. This movie felt so nice. It felt very hopeful, happy, and optimistic, despite the fact that there is an impending doom coming in the form of Steppenwolf and Darkseid. Okay, so this is going to be spoiler free if it wasn't obvious, but let me start this first impression by saying, if you remember the Whedon version of Justice League, this movie is 100% different in almost 95% of the way. Like, not counting all of the new footage that was used for this movie, the film managed to do everything that the Whedon version did, but better. It paced itself a lot better. A lot of the continuity issues that movie had were fixed and resolved. For example, there is a line that Cyborg has in the Whedon version where he says that the mother boxes didn't actually do anything or didn't fully go into play or activate until Superman died, which didn't really make sense because, as we all saw, the mother box was already awakening before the death of Superman happened. And what this movie basically does is it actually shows us how the mother boxes started to activate. And what I mean by that is, and keep in mind, I'm using comic book logic here because I really don't have a logical way of explaining anything here. So, when Superman fought against Doomsday, that horrible CG ogre-looking monstrosity that I still think would have been better if it started out as Michael Shannon Zod and then slowly decayed and deteriorated into Doomsday, but I digress. His death echoed all across the fucking world to the point that it even reached Themyscira, and as soon as he died, it rung a bell, as Lex Luthor said it, to the point where every single mother box, whether it was out there in Metropolis or is it Central City, I don't know where the hell Cyborg is located in this movie. In Atlantis, where the Atlanteans are holding theirs, and Themyscira, where the Amazons are holding theirs for safekeeping. His death rung a massive bell that managed to awaken them as a sort of way to say, hey, the god is dead, get your asses over here and come claim us so that we can cause the end of the world already. And that's how we have Steppenwolf showing up, looking like a motherfucking beast in this movie. A lot better than that dopey, unfinished bullshit that was in the Whedon version. And we also get to see a lot of different versions of some of the scenes that we got from the original film. And by original, I mean the butchered version, which I'm going to start calling it the butchered cut to make it better. So, in the butchered cut, we got a lot of unnecessary bits of humor that, despite the fact that a movie like this could have used some humor and lightheartedness, were horribly cringe-inducing. Like I mentioned before, Barry landing on Diana's tits. I'm sorry, Joss Whedon is supposed to be a feminist, right? But I digress. The movie has humor. I know that Snyder said that the movie was not going to have a lot of jokes. Snyder also said there was going to be a fucking intermission. You fucking lied, man. Although, I'm sure there's probably going to be an intermission if they have it in theaters. And if there is an article talking about whether or not there's going to be an intermission in theaters, then that's fine. But you never specified that, so I'm calling you out on that, sir. So, there are jokes here, too. Yeah, don't think that this movie is light on the comedy. There's comedy in there, but not haha funny, but funny, if you know what I mean. Like, there's moments where you will chuckle, and there's moments where you're gonna be like, but the majority of the time, the jokes that come into play feel more natural, and natural, and they don't feel forced. Like, you can totally believe this banter coming from every one of these characters, from Cyborg to, from Cyborg to Flash to even Batman has a joke here and there. But Alfred is probably the roast master in this entire enterprise, and I love seeing more of him in this film. Watching Jeremy Irons as this big, larger-than-life persona is just crazy, and I love seeing him in here. And I just like the fact that this movie can also be light in terms of its tone. Zack Zack Snyder has stated that this was his intention. He wanted Batman v Superman to be the darkest film in the franchise, with Justice League being the lightest. He wanted it to be much lighter in tone, much more hopeful and optimistic. And I didn't know what his definition of hopeful and optimistic was until I actually saw it. This movie feels so happy and so hopeful and so, well, like I said, it feels very hopeful and very optimistic, and I love seeing every frame of it. I love the way that these characters interact with each other. I love the fact that they're smiling here. Flash is smiling, Cyborg's smiling, Batman kinda smiles here and there, Wonder Woman is smiling, Henry Cavill's Superman is smiling. I think the only one that isn't smiling in this movie is Steppenwolf and Dark. Actually, no, you know what? Steppenwolf doesn't smile, but fucking Darkseid does. Spoiler alert, Darkseid smiles in this. And it's a sort of evil smile there, like the kind of smile that you would look and think, oh fuck, I am dead. But it's still a smile nonetheless. So when fucking Darkseid is smiling, you know that this movie is not going to be dark and gritty and horribly devoid of comedy or joy. So if even the villains are having a good time, then I guess the movie has to be doing something hopeful and optimistic. But back to the movie itself, the film uses some of the footage that was tampered with in the butchered cut, and we get to see different lines being used here, different cuts here, removing some of the jokes that didn't work there. One of the jokes that I was a little sad was excluded was a joke that Barry does where he references the idea of digging up Superman, comparing it to something like Pet Sematary, to the point where they were digging up his corpse. Cyborg and Barry digging up Superman's corpse is the funniest thing I have ever seen, and I'm very happy that this was in this version too. But when they finally do bring him back to life, spoilers if you haven't seen the original movie yet, Superman is postal. He is not knowing what the fuck is going on. He has basically been reborn. He is a tiny little baby man in a Henry Cavill-sized body. And saying that out loud makes me sound even creepy because I fucking love Henry Cavill. But I digress. Watching him pretty much bring everybody down and beating them to a bloody pulp was hilariously satisfying in the butchered cut. But I could do without that damn Uncanny Valley CGI smirk that he does when holding Batman up in the fucking air. That scene isn't in this version, by the way. He does fight Batman, but it's a lot more not Uncanny Valley-ish, if you want to call it that. But one moment that I was very happy to see is still in this version is Cyborg, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman are all holding him together, and fucking Flash is going faster than the speed of light to try to attack him, and then Superman stares back at him in a fucking Luigi death stare, and they have this really cool slow motion beat 'em up while they're technically going fast, but to us they're going slow because that's just how it looks for us, the audience. I love the way that Snyder implemented the use of going faster than the speed of light here. And I always wanted to see Superman and Flash having a fight like this. This is a lot cooler than anything that the Flash series did, which I fucking adore the Flash series, but I've wanted to see this happen, and as far as I'm aware, because I kind of stopped watching the series for a while, I don't know if he ever actually ended up fighting Superman, or the one from Superman and Lois, for example, and they had something similar to this, but watching Barry's eyes widen as Superman stares back at him as he runs towards him, and he looks at him with a look that says, yeah, you're fucking dead, was the single funniest thing I have ever seen, and in my mind I was like, oh fucking shit. In the theater, everyone was losing their minds over it. Watching it happen here again, though, it still has that same magic, even if Whedon kind of butchered it by having this stupid decision of having a combination of Batman's theme from the Tim Burton universe and the Superman theme by John Williams. I love both of those themes, but hearing them happen like that, hearing them being placed out there out of nowhere, kind of felt very out of place and out of tone with the movie. Here, Tom Holkenberg's score is excellent, and I love listening to it. I already have one of his songs. I believe it was. I don't remember what the name is, and I can't think of it from the top of my hand right now. But if he does release a fucking box set of the music from this movie, I'm gonna be the first to pick it up, because the score for this movie is excellent. It's some of the best that I've heard for any superhero movie ever. It definitely feels unlike any superhero movie that I've heard in a long time. It still maintains some of the themes from the past DCEU Zack Snyder movies. Lex Luthor's theme, for example, is still in there. Spoiler alert, if you forgot that Lex Luthor was in this movie, I almost did until he showed up at the end at the post-credit scene. Not really a spoiler if you already saw the Whedon version of the film, but I digress. And we get to see a rendition of Wonder Woman's theme from Batman v Superman, different versions of Superman's music from Man of Steel, a new version of the song First Flight, or Flight, however you want to call it. I don't know. iTunes has the names differently, so I can't even tell you right now. So we get different versions of pre-existing music from the past movies, as well as new compositions made for this one. And they sound gorgeous. I love the music for this movie. If anything deserves a fucking Oscar, it's the fucking score for this movie. Hulkenberg is one of the best composers I've ever seen in the modern day, and I really wish that he would release this thing physically, because I want to own the music myself. And I mean own it, not fucking download it on Spotify, because if you know me, you know that I don't fucking like Spotify. Sorry, Emmanuel. But going back to the movie, as I said before, the film is a lot more hopeful and optimistic than any of the Zack Snyder DCEU movies that were released, and it definitely feels like it wants to be more hopeful and optimistic, not because Warner Brothers told him to do so, but because Zack Snyder wanted this to be a more happy and optimistic story. I have no way of proving this, but after what happened and everything that happens in between, not just with the production, but with real life as well, I would not be entirely surprised if you wanted to make a movie that's more lighthearted and hopeful. I think, and let's be honest here, I think he wanted this to be a happy and fun experience. I cannot tell you if he wanted this to be more hopeful and optimistic, or if this is just how it ended up by design, but if he wanted this to be a hopeful and optimistic Justice League movie, then by God, he fucking succeeded. Because this movie is wonderfully fun, beautifully shot, and beautifully directed. I love Zack Snyder's directing choices in this movie. I love the use of slow motion. I love the use of songs to emphasize the scene that is happening. I've always loved that about him. I love the way that he incorporates music into his movies. It's something that I've always done in my stories when I came up with them in my head and wrote them down in paper. I always play my music and think, okay, this song should go with this scene. This will be happening in the background. It's all going to be non-diegetic, of course, but still. Like, I envy his filmmaking technique. It's the kind of technique that I've always wanted to do for my stories. So watching all of this happening the way that he wanted it to be done in the first place was a breath of fresh air, and I really, really, really love the way that he incorporated all of this. It's just beautiful to sit through and just wonderful to watch. I didn't even have to stop the movie so I can go to the bathroom. I literally could hold it all in because, and I hate to say it, this is not the longest movie I've had to sit through, folks. I sat through Lord of the Rings, the extended cuts, non-stop. And that is not a Hamilton reference. Non-stop. Now that was a Hamilton reference. So, sitting through 4 hours of this was nothing to me. So, I don't really know what more I can say about this. Well, okay, I will say more. I love everything about Cyborg in this movie. I've talked about it with my girlfriend. I've talked about it with my friends. Cyborg has been done justice in Justice League. That is not a pun, I swear to God. He is just a fucking joy to watch in this movie. I'm not gonna tell you any of the new stuff that he does in this version. I will say this. If you were upset that he had no character in the butchered cut of the movie, this movie did my boy justice. I've always loved Cyborg ever since I watched the original Teen Titans show. I even liked him in Teen Titans Go. Cyborg is great in everything. The only thing that he was ever shitty in was in Apocalypse War. But I'm not going to talk about Apocalypse War, because if I do, I'm going to be here all day just ranting and yelling about how horrible that movie was. But I digress. Cyborg is just wonderful in this movie. Ray Fisher, if you're watching this, I doubt you will, but if you're watching this, you gave the best performance that I've seen in this entire franchise. You were wonderful in this, and fuck everybody at Warner Brothers who screwed you over the way they did. All of that nonsense. And by the way, I know I already wrote this on your Vero page, but I am so sorry for ever doubting the claims that you ended up posting about the studio and Whedon. It was poor judgment of me to actually say or disagree with anything like that, because someone like me who's been through situations like this as well, not in the same vein as you obviously, but who's also been screwed over by horrible people, should have definitely known better, and for that I apologize. But you gave the best performance of your career here. And I'm not saying that you haven't done good performances ever beforehand. I wouldn't really know, honestly, because to be perfectly honest, you're a newcomer in my eyes, and this is the first time I've ever seen you, and this was a wonderful first impression. I'm ignoring the nonsense in the butchered cut for obvious reasons, so this to me was justice being done properly, and you were the best part of this entire movie next to the Flash. And honestly, I don't think I can explain how much I love Ezra Miller's Flash in this movie. I love that he's still quirky and funny and making jokes and just being all spastic and making reference after reference here and there, just basically being the child of the group. Like, he reminded me so much of myself there. I feel like this is basically me if I were a superhero surrounded by other superheroes, and he was just a joy to watch, especially in the beginning of the movie where he appears applying for a job. I said I wouldn't be talking about any of the new footage, but I just need to talk about this because the image of Ezra Miller Flash playing with a bunch of puppies, holding a fucking hot dog to them so they can eat it, was the single most adorable thing in this entire movie. And watching him and watching the potential of Flash in this franchise is absolutely ridiculous. And Warner Brothers, for the love of God, please have Ray Fisher show up as Cyborg in the Flashpoint movie. You've already made enough terrible decisions. Try to rectify this, for God's sake. Have him appear in the movie. I don't care. And I'm not talking about a cameo. I'm not talking about a fucking cameo here and there. And I'm not talking about what you did with Deathstroke. I'm talking about having him be part of the movie, having him team up with the Flash. I don't know what the storyline is going to be, and I know this is probably going to be Flashpoint because you all kind of confirmed it. But I want to see Flash and Cyborg working together because they had such wonderful chemistry in this movie. Now, Aquaman. Now Wonder Woman. I'm kidding. I don't know how to feel about Jason Momoa's Aquaman, to be perfectly honest, because I liked what they did with him in the butchered cut of the movie, but watching him in this movie, a lot of it felt kind of the same. Like, there really was no difference. He's still big, strong, and doubting of a lot of things that are happening, but to me, the real change was a lack of that one scene in the butcher cut where he's talking to everybody. He's making a couple of jokes here and there. It's like, you tripping on your own feet, you have no powers, no offense, you might be working for the enemy, and you, oh, you're gorgeous. And he's just going off and talking about coming clean about a lot of things, being very honest about stuff, and it turns out that he has the fucking lasso of truth wrapped around his foot, and he tells Barry, if you tell this to anyone, I'll feed you to every piranha that I know. I was hoping that was going to be in the movie, to be honest, because that was one of the few bits of the butcher cut that I actually liked. But watching him in this movie, if there's one little bit of criticism that I can have, is that I feel like there could have been a lot more done with Aquaman than there could for everyone else, because everybody seems to shine properly, but Aquaman kind of feels like he's just there. He does have his moments where he gets to shine, and watching him fight against Steppenwolf was one of the coolest things ever, especially here where when he gets to fight alongside all the other members of the team. But I feel like there could have been more done with him. And I know that his appearance here is almost set up for the Aquaman movie that we got with James Wan, but that movie was okay. Like, it could have been better, but just saying, there could have been more that could have been done with him. But, when you have a movie with all these different characters, five out of six really isn't that bad. So, what about Batman, though? Does he finally get to say the F-bomb that was made fun of or teased in the Warp Zone video where they talked about the Snyder Cut? I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to spoil anything because I want everyone watching this video to go watch the movie themselves on the 18th. Because I promise you, I'm just giving you my first impressions on this. The movie is fantastic. Whether or not you agree with it, whether or not you think it's any better than Batman v Superman, or even better than the theatrical cut, this movie, to me at least, satisfies everyone. It manages to be a hopeful and optimistic superhero movie, and it manages to be the Zack Snyder Justice League that a lot of people wanted to see. Whether or not it's the one that they imagined in their heads is entirely up to them, because, and I'm just going to say it here, you built this movie up to be the second coming of Christ in terms of a movie. So whether or not it's actually any good or meets your expectations, I can't speak on your behalf, so you'll have to decide that for yourselves. But for me at least, as someone who was groaning the idea of this movie existing, the fact that I, of all people, am telling you that this is one of my favorite movies of all time and that you should definitely watch it, should tell you a lot. Now, what more can I say about this? I have never felt so happy watching a superhero movie like this, especially a DC one. I've seen plenty of good DC movies over the past few years, Birds of Prey, the original Wonder Woman, Shazam, but I don't think I've ever seen... I think this to me was the first time since the beginning of the DCEU that the Justice League, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, all of them felt like Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. They actually felt like the heroes that I've wanted to see. Superman finally felt like Superman. When I saw him in this movie, I didn't see Man of Steel. I didn't see Batman v Superman. I saw the real Superman. I don't know what the hell Snyder did in terms of direction and writing here. And I know that Chris Terrio wrote the movie. Don't need to correct me in the comment section. I'm aware. But I don't know what the hell Snyder did here. But this, for the first time ever, this actually felt like Superman. It felt like Superman to me. Not just because of the way he looks or the way that the music embodies him as a character, but watching him come to the rescue and this bigger than life persona saving the day and bringing justice where it was once missing was so satisfying and so unbelievably wonderful that I actually got a little teary-eyed watching him donning on the suit and flying. Like, to me, it felt like this was finally the Superman that I've wanted to see on the big screen ever since Man of Steel did him dirty. He also does a little something at the end of the movie. Let's just say here, the last time you see Superman, you're going to lose your mind with what he does in the film. It's a wonderful callback. If that wasn't a fucking indicator, that I don't know what is, but it's the best that I can do without just outright spoiling what he does. It's a stupid little thing, but for me, this felt so satisfying and so wonderful to see. I don't know if everyone else will agree. I don't really care what the fans have to say. I don't know if the critics will agree with me as well. I really don't know, and honestly, I don't care. I've let the internet and subsequently my friends tell me what to think about the DC Extended Universe and a whole lot of other movies for the past years. And I am no longer letting anybody tell me what to think. So, this is me, Sebastian from Cinemageddon Reviews, telling you I love the Snyder Cut. I think it is fantastic, and you all should definitely see it. I don't know if everyone else will agree with me on the same kind of sentiment. I know some people still find it hard to believe that I even liked Wonder Woman 1984, but if the review that I posted is any indicator, some of them actually wanted to see it after my review came out. Whether or not they actually liked it is inconsequential, but hey, if you liked it, then good for you. As for the Snyder Cut, I'm going to be rewatching it again on the... Is it on the 18th? Yes, on the 18th. And I'm going to be watching it alongside a whole bunch of you fans out there, along with Zack Snyder. So, if you want to see the movie with me, then you can join me at Cinemageddon Reviews as we watch the film together on the 18th, along with Zack Snyder, who, according to him, will also have a couple of other people involved here. Now, I want to say more about this movie, and like I said before, I will write an official review for this. All of this was just me letting my feelings out to all of you, and I really fucking love this movie, guys. The fact that I am singing this movie's praises at all should give you an idea as to how fucking serious I am. I'm not letting anybody influence my decision here. This is me being about as honest as possible about the damn Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut is real. The Snyder Cut is real, and it is great. Does it have to exist? If it has to exist, I'm glad that it does. And honestly, WB, Booby, if you're watching this, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but restore the Snyderverse. Or at the very least, let Snyder do a follow-up, because I need to know who the hell is going to be in charge of taking care of Kal-El's baby after it's born. Yeah, spoiler alert, but Lois is pregnant here. I know I said I wouldn't do spoilers, but Snyder technically already spoiled it for everyone when he talked about his ideas for a follow-up series of films. So, is it really spoilers if the director himself already confirmed it before the damn movie could come out? Hey, at least I didn't spoil the fact that I was going to, but I'm not. Certain character that Mr. Snyder said was going to be in the movie that a lot of hardcore fans will lose their minds over. I know who you're talking about. Everybody kind of already thought he was going to be in here. I still couldn't believe that this was actually a thing that people theorized, but I'm glad to see that he was in here. Or she, pronouns, but the fact that this actually happened is something that I still cannot believe, and I'm very happy to see it happen. Also, you lied. This doesn't end on a cliffhanger. I don't know what you were talking about, Snyder, but if you're watching this, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for finally getting the movie out the way that you wanted it to be. If this is your official cut, your finished version, your magnum opus, this was the best movie that I've ever seen that has your name on it. Not Joss Whedon, you. And I think that is something worth celebrating. And I cannot wait to see it with you on the 18th and tell you there by chat, because it's not going to be via webcam, so you can't see my fucking face while I'm saying it, but I cannot wait to watch the movie with you and just geek out in excitement. The fact that I'm finally watching a Zack Snyder DCEU movie that I can honestly say I love and adore is crazy, but I can't lie if I said that this was the worst thing ever, because this movie's too hopeful and optimistic for me to actually hate it. If you all agree and you saw the movie to confirm it, then I'm glad to see that you do. If you don't, I'd like to discuss the movie with you if you would like. Hopefully with no need for any sort of animosity or anger here and there. The last thing that I want is for there to be any more anger and misinformation being spread. So, with that in mind, guys, I'm Sebastian from Cinemageddon Reviews, signing out, and I'll see you all in the wasteland. And once again, WB, restore the Snyderverse.